What led to it was an accumulation of things. So there is a history of severe sleep apnea on my father's side of the family, which I apparently inherited. And then on top of that, I was put on quite a few very powerful psychiatric medications that I never needed, at the behest of my mother, who just absolutely had to have control over me, did not like my narrative of speaking up against her abuse. And so between those two, I believe that's what led up to it. And really, the near-death experience itself, I wouldn't say is just an overwhelming kind of story. And I say that because it happened while I was asleep at home. And a lot of these stories that you see by people, coming on podcasts or sharing their story on their own social medias, they have some sort of big event. They have an accident, they have an illness, something like that, and they're hospitalized. They have the medical support to keep their physical body alive. And that's not what I had. So my NDE, in a way, is very short and not overwhelmingly spectacular, because I didn't have that time for my body to be kept alive while I was going through this experience. So my NDE itself, rather short, but rather pivotal at the same time. During my NDE, I remember falling asleep. The window was slightly open, and I lived in a bedroom community / farm town. So I heard the cows and the horses in the fields, and once in a while the train would go by. It's something that to this day I'm starting to miss. And as I started falling asleep, finally losing the battle in my mind against everything, the overthinking, I remember I was dreaming. And it stopped abruptly. There was this bright white light that came down, and all I really remember is levitating. And the feeling, the emotion that I got, it was one of absolute love and acceptance and peace, something I hadn't known in this lifetime. And it's feelings that I haven't really known since. I was looking around, there's these prisms of colors that the human eye it can't perceive, and it's blissful. And I was rising up, and my right hand was going up towards the apex with my left arm by my side. And just before I got to the apex, I heard my brother's voice on the other side. He had died just a couple weeks before I turned 10. And at this point, I was 17. I still miss him. We had a special relationship. And he told me that it wasn't my time yet, that I had to go back. I didn't want to go back. And obviously I'm still a little emotional about it, even though I'm in my 40s. I remember this force pushing me backwards. And I remember screaming, no, just no. Going back to that life where you're not wanted, where you're the black sheep, the scapegoat. Even if you're not even in the same location, whatever goes wrong is somehow your fault. And I remember when I woke up abruptly. And my heart was racing and felt like out of its chest. My breathing was rapid. deep gulps that stung my lungs. Like I hadn't been breathing for a minute. My joints slightly stiff. And I was trying to process, what the heck was that? And oh my God, I just died. It's one of those days where, it's the difference between a dream and actual death. And once I was able to compose myself, because I just start crying afterwards, I didn't want to be here. I didn't want to continue. And so finally, after I gathered myself, I went into my mom's room. Mind you, it's around 2:30 a.m. or so. And I woke her up, and I'm just trying to get a little bit of love, a little bit of guidance, maybe even a hug. The children don't just stop loving their parents. Even if abuse is all they know, they still try. They still try to be good enough. And so I told her what happened. And per usual, she basically told me to go back to sleep, that it was just a dream, that I don't know what I'm talking about. And she has class in the morning, so how dare I wake her up with this foolishness? I left her bedroom feeling rejected, dejected, unwanted, gaslit, obviously, because she doesn't know what I went through. Only I do, and that's circumstance. And the next 2 decades, I spent every morning when I woke up either depressed or angry that I was given the gift of life that day.
Can be quite overwhelming, I can imagine. Not wanting to be here, and especially when you mentioned not feeling loved, not feeling accepted by your family, which by all means would have to be the first, community that should love and accept you. Could you talk a bit more about your upbringing and how that has shaped who you are? Because I think you found a beautiful way to turn that pain and that grief into something productive and fruitful. And I want to know where it all started.
Where it comes from, where the strength to face the day comes from, where the strength to use your voice when it has been stolen from you for so long, where that comes from, I don't know. But I enjoy finding out every single day. I grew up, I was the middle and oldest. So my father was married first and had 2 sons, 16 and 17 years respectively older than me. He got divorced, met my mom a few, years later. They got married, and I was the first daughter. And then they had 5 years later my younger sister. So I believe it was my brothers that saw through my mother's mask, which is why they didn't really want to have a relationship with her. That's fair enough. And yet, growing up in that home, I didn't have a choice. So, of course, people see the mother and they think that their children are going to be just like her. I am not. I might look like her, unfortunately. And that's a battle that I've waged against myself for years. She was getting compliments one day. Now she's totally blind. We took the bus everywhere. And she got compliments from bus drivers a few times saying that her and I looked like sisters. Now, what kind of 30, 40-year-old something, wouldn't take some pleasure in saying she looks like a teenager, right? But what does that do to the teenager when the mother's a monster? that she looks like the one that has been. She looks like the one that has taken her voice away. And so I waged a war against myself. I was severely bullied in school. And for many years, I didn't take care of myself at all. I didn't feel worthy of it. I didn't feel like I was worthy of much of anything. So I just accepted what was given to me, even if it was scraps. There's this quote that I saw that really resonates. And it goes, when children are not fed love on a silver spoon, they learn to lick it off of knives. I can't tell you how many times I've been cut. And still, to this day, I refuse to withhold the same love and understanding and acceptance and guidance that wasn't given to me to others. You see, the reason why I was spared death, permanent death, at 17, is because I finally found out that I had a different purpose, and one in which I'm rebuilding myself for. I can't give up, and I cannot expect myself to hold others to a standard in which I do not hold myself. If I don't live the life that I am talking about, that makes me a hypocrite. That makes my business formed upon quicksand and not on bedrock. So I'm doing the hard work. I used to be 350 pounds, thanks to all those medications and just not caring what I put in my mouth. And now I'm down to under 200. I took myself, no, by the way, this is just a broad warning. Do not take yourself off of any medication without consulting a doctor first. Let's just put that out there. Disclaimer, big letters. But one night it was in 2019, after being let go of another job, feeling like an abject failure. The person I was with was letting his kids get away with disrespecting me and basically running the household with no consequences. Completely took over everything. And I had no power to do anything about it. So that led to detachment and frustration. I remember holding a bottle of pills in my hand. And I was just contemplating, is it even worth it? I don't see the way out. I don't see my life getting any better. I don't see myself being able to be loved like I knew I deserved, but never received. I felt like a failure. And it was at that time when I was crying my eyes out that it was my dog Ba that actually got up on the bed. And there's Ba. And he nudged my arm, and that gave me this split second to ask myself, this split second of clarity. And I looked down at the bottle of pills and I asked myself this one question. If these are supposed to keep me from thinking what I'm thinking and doing what I'm about to do, what good are they? And so I put them down. 8, 10 prescriptions that I had done. I could never be who she wanted me to be. I could just be who she needed me to be at that moment in order to put all the blame upon. And so I walked away and I never spoke with her software again. It's been about 3.5 years. And in those 3.5 years, I've gone from 350 pounds and homeless, absolutely going crazy with trauma, to someone who is using their newly found voice to speak up for those who feel voiceless, for championing those people who feel like there's no hope, for telling my story and getting it out there, because I know I'm not the only one, because something has to change. What I've done through these 3 years is go through hours of coaching, and coaching specifically because, one, I found an absolute angel that helped me through a lot. So what I do now is I unite other healers, other people that have heard the call. And I only really started to heal once I found the 3 pillars.
What are the 3 pillars?
The 3 pillars of human existence is the mind, the body, and the soul. If we are able to unite all 3 instead of segregate and divide, we come together. When we can come together, miracles happen. When we come together, not only within ourselves, but within our communities, miracles can start happening. It's when I incorporated nutrition and exercise, along with coaching, meditation, journaling, Reiki, nature walks, grounding, listening to, this beautiful kind of music instead of what is on the airwaves right now, instead of what's popular. Doing things that make me feel good instead of doing things that other people make me feel like I'm obligated to do. That's when you really start coming together within yourself. When you can come together within yourself, you then start to elevate. And when you start to elevate your life and you start healing your mind, you start healing your body, your soul starts to shine, and you start bringing in more beautiful people. And those beautiful people have other experiences and other nuggets of wisdom to share. And you hold on to that and you try it for yourself. And if it works, you keep it. And if you don't, you send it away with love. That's fine. But really, it's unification. It shouldn't be such a taboo kind of issue when you're saying, look, yeah, you can work on your mental health, but you also have to work on everything else. You can't expect one system to all of a sudden miraculously turn around all 3. It's an ongoing healing process with my journey. I don't think there will ever be a day where I won't remember where I came from, but that will no longer dictate who I am or where I'm going. Everyone has a choice. You can either choose the easy path, which is to continue to play the victim, if that's what you're continuing to do. If that suits you, then that's your choice. You can choose to blame others for where you are in life. Okay? That's your choice. Or you can take the path that is most difficult, but it also bears the most reward. You can choose to say no more. You can choose to start respecting yourself. You can choose to start loving yourself. Love, true, in essence, self-love does not mean you have to go to a spa and you have to go out and party and you have to do a all girls night, all that. True self-love is setting boundaries. True self-love is learning. True self-love is eating things that nourish your body. True self-love is moving your body in a way that feels good to you. True self-love is being able to give to others without emptying who you are. True self-love is learning what no is, and that no is a complete sentence. True self-love is saying, I do not feel respected by you at this time. Can we please come back to this topic when I feel like I am calmed down enough to have this conversation? True self-love means that you understand your role. And even though things that have happened to you never should have happened. It also means saying that within those moments, and there have been some moments where I have treated others pretty badly because I was caught in my trauma and I was taking it out on someone else. That's not okay. Other people don't deserve the wrath of what they did not inflict. And so it is up to you to make that choice if you are going to make other people bear the punishment for what they do not deserve. And that's difficult to come to terms with. It's difficult to realize that there are things that you have said and done to others when you were within a triggered emotional state, in a heightened, volatile state, not on something that they said or did, but on something that you remembered from your past. And so you put it on them. And really it's coming back to who you really are. Are you that person that you choose to stay small for? Or are you that person that you choose to step up? I chose to step up. I choose every single day to love who I am and continue this healing journey, to unify people together, to understand that you're not alone. And now I have people from Washington State, from Texas, from Oregon, from Florida, even one in the Netherlands that has heard this and are inspired by this vision that I have. And they want to provide their services through me, through my institute. Because we know that right now a broken system cannot and will not fix itself. It needs to have a solution as innovative as the crisis is dire. And so with all these people together, I found a way to bridge the gaps between affordability, accessibility, and sustainability while still offering outreach services to the non-served and socioeconomically disadvantaged. Just because you can't afford to live does not mean you deserve to live in your trauma. No one deserves that. And no one is really exempt, let's say, from a traumatic experience. From the highest functioning CEO to the veteran on the street. No one gets out of this life unscathed. And so that's why I've brought together these beautiful people in a way that we are all unified under one vision to support each and every client through their journey, whether it's nutrition, hypnosis, art, meditation. There's so many different ways that call to different people, but they still get to the end goal. And that end goal really is to unify the mind, the body, the soul, to start healing, to start within that healing, making different choices in the behaviors. And from those different choices comes a better life. I live that every day.
And I have to say, Kathryn, it's nothing short of amazing where you came from and the trauma that you've been through. That, you know, if you had just given up on life and had done nothing, you know, even remotely useful to society, and I don't know if you've gotten many compliments in your life. I think far less than what you should have received. But I want to definitely tell you, it's absolutely awe-inspiring, amazing what you're doing, and you're just a wonderful and amazing human being. And I'd like to ask all of you watching us today to also leave a note for Kathryn, if you agree with me, in the comments below. The trauma that you went through is probably something that a lot of us cannot even deal with. We would need 20 lifetimes, 30 lifetimes to deal with it. So I want to come back and ask you, do you feel worthy today?
I feel more worthy today than I did yesterday, than I did a year ago, and I did 5 years ago. I spent 2 years not really doing much of anything, but just languishing within my trauma. Playing a victim. That's how I know how easy it is. And then 3 years ago, I really started to dig deep. And then it was just a year ago, I actually established my LLC. So the worthiness that I didn't feel before, I feel now. And so it's a long road to get to the point where if you have never really known love, to loving yourself, it's a foreign concept. And I just want to let you know, it's not just women that suffer from that. You know, we have a society that has women and men for some reason pitted against each other. And it's doing a lot of damage to some really good men too. There's a lot of work our society needs to do. And a lot of the pain inflicted on good people comes from people who do not feel worthy. It's because when you feel worthy, you do not feel the need to put other people down. When you feel worthy, you do not feel this knee-jerk reaction of putting venom out into the world. Whether it is through comments on social media, or videos, or face-to-face interaction, text messages, phone calls, emails, any way. If you feel worthy, you do not feel the need to be hateful. Because worthy and love is the opposite of jealousy and hate and all of that. It's two completely different states of mind. So my worthiness has taken me from the knee-jerk trauma reactions of spitting venom out there on social media to building a business around love and unity. And that's something that I offer to everybody, regardless of who they are, where they come from. Because you're human. You deserve it. You don't deserve to be bullied. You don't deserve to be abused. You don't deserve much of what this world has been offering. We can do better. We can absolutely do better. I live it. We can do better, but you have to choose to do better. You have to choose to be better. You are not who you were brought up to be if you choose not to be that person. You have it within you. It's that one choice that you make that can change your life. One choice. And from there, it is a succession of smaller but equally powerful choices. But first you have to choose you. First you have to choose your happiness. And first you have to say, done. I am sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I am worthy of being better.
Love that. I love that so much. And it is difficult being worthy, being better. It is not easy, but it does bring so much reward with it. And I'll say from my personal experience, when I dealt with the things I had to deal with to understand that I am enough, and I am okay, and I am worthy as I am, and I don't need to be in any other way, shape, or form to be worthy. That's when judgment just started to subside. And I have this rule of thumb, it's just ingrained in me. When somebody is bitter, when somebody is criticizing, when somebody is mean, point blank mean, I just go and I usually say, I'm so sorry you're hurting. I don't know what's hurting you. Most likely it wasn't me, but I'm very sorry you're hurting. Usually they just freak out because they tend to think it's very topical, and I tend to think you're hurting because of whatever's going on in your life, which I know nothing about. And I am now the outlet for that anger and frustration.
Yeah.
But when you start to see these loud noises and criticism as people being unhappy, then instead of rising up and to match their level of anger, what you do is you start feeling compassion and you start feeling sorry for them, and you start seeing it as a cry for help.
You know, I haven't exactly outwardly told someone like that, so bravo. I gotta say. There have been many instances where I have been met with a lot of this venom. And within me, you know, all I can really do is thank you, but no thank you, and walk away, right? Reclaim your time, reclaim your power. But in my heart, in my mind, I'm saying, I don't know who hurt you so badly that you think that this behavior is not only appropriate but correct. I hope you find the healing you deserve, because you are in obvious pain.
Absolutely.
And that's the biggest one. I don't know who hurt you to make you believe that this behavior is appropriate or correct.
Yeah. And
because making someone hurt should not be someone's main goal. Causing pain should not bring you pleasure.
Exactly.
And if it does, then I don't know who hurt you. You did not deserve that. And I hope you find the healing you deserve.
Beautiful. And that reminds me of part 2, which is, I know that hurt people, and the first time I will say, I'm very sorry that you're hurting, I will also say it's not acceptable to treat me that way. And unless anything changes, I will just not engage further.
Exactly.
And you can call me unreasonable, you can call me absolutely whatever, absolutely fine, but I will not engage until things change, or not at all.
And that's boundaries, and boundaries are self-love. So bravo, I love that.
Yeah, it took me whole 34 years to learn. Kathryn, how can people connect with your work, and how can they find you?
So if you'd like to connect, I am still looking for, oh my goodness, a plethora of people who feel called to, you know, heal others. And you can go to my website, dawninginstitute.com, or you can email me, info@dawninginstitute.com, and just say, hey, you know, I saw you on this podcast. This is what I do. This is what I have to offer. Or you can even, you know, ask me a few questions about what it is you're putting together, what it is we're doing. You know, I would really welcome anybody who feels called to this mission to reach out, because I would love to get in contact with you. I would love to have more service providers. I'd love to put you even on our national network if you're not here in Seattle. You know, I would just love to welcome you into this community.